Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another national anthem reaction video. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, for one of the few times absolutely doing these national anthems, there's plenty of context absolutely I can give you towards Jamaica, because this is one of those few nations absolutely for the sake of these sort of videos that I have actually been to myself. So allow me to give you a little bit of context as to what Jamaica, from my perspective, certainly was like. So, and I think the best way I can tell you is sort of what it was like during the end of my family's 2-week cruise all across the Caribbean. So let's see if I could just get a short flag up here. So actually, I'll tell you what, we'll do this in reverse order. I'll tell you just about everything I wanted to show you from Jamaica, and then we will cut to the story and the chase later. Now, first of all, as far as Caribbean nations go, well, there's quite a lot of things to be said about nations in the Caribbean. First of all, the beaches are to die for. It's clean, it's fresh. The beaches are golden. The sky is endless blue. It looks, just from the outside from the outside observer, it looks probably like paradise. And this is something that you'll notice evidently when we cut to, again, even smaller things like this, like tiny islands just outside of the actual mainland. And ladies and gentlemen, imagine retiring here. Imagine living in that house, and imagine just waking up to this every single morning. I don't really think you can get much better than that. The only slight inconvenience you might have is, you know, how far away this is from the mainland. But even so, it's just about one of the best things you can get. Also, I must say this as well, because I do really quite like a lot of the women that actually have the braids and do all these wacky things with their hair. I just, again, from my observer from when I was there as well, quite a lot of the women that I saw certainly had very, very long hair, and it was sort of tied up in these sort of towers. I know next to nothing about. Listen, I'm no artist or hairstylist or anything like that, but I know what I like, and I don't know, it was just something about the way they did it, or the fact that it was, well, one lady I remember had the curls were so thick it was like rope, and you got to wonder how much their hair actually weighs, because it does not look comfortable, not one bit. Then of course you come across certain other famous characteristics, like, and I don't want to say necessarily about cannabis laws in Jamaica. I don't want to say like cannabis is necessarily a culture of that sort of kind, but certainly there seemed to be something of a very strange, relaxing feeling in the air. And I don't necessarily know what about it makes it so, or whether or not just people are just so relaxed. And well, actually, to be honest, that is one of the big things I've always noticed whenever it came to being in Jamaica, is that things seemed almost too relaxed. Because I remember halfway into the holiday, we were already back at Montego Bay. I believe it was Montego Bay. And we were just like staying a day back in Jamaica. And I remember once when I was off the boat, and there was a small little store that was selling like postcards, fridge magnets. I even got a little toy Pikachu Rasta. No kidding, it had like a Rastafarian hat on, it had dreadlocks, and the woman behind the desk, I'm pretty sure she said she would take my virginity for $20. True story, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you, but it was, I don't know what it was, but it was just the way, it wasn't the way she said it. It was the fact that she did not even look at me whatsoever when she said it. She sounded as though I was like over there as opposed to like right in front of her. And she seemed to be like playing with her head. She must have like thought it was like a pet snake or something. She kept like twirling it and sort of like half closing her eyes and half showing all of her. She had very good teeth, I must say that. She was just showing all of this and just. She did not. I don't know if she was serious about it or she was so stoned that she was seeing double. That I just paid for the Rastafarian Pikachu and then just sort of made my way back to the boat. Besides, I was only 17 at the time, and there was absolutely no way in hell I was prepared to go through with that. Also because I don't know, it sounded like it was only ever going to end in disaster. Or possibly, goodness knows what else. She might have had a gun behind the kiosk or something, I don't know. But again, even if she did, in her condition, I'm not entirely sure if she would even know if it was loaded or if the barrel was facing the other way. So, make of that what you will. Other things besides, there was a very friendly four-piece band. They were all playing steel drums just outside this little reception area just before you got back onto the boat, and we all tipped them. We all tipped them at least $2 each, and again, they were very friendly, very smiling. They must have absolutely been so accustomed to the heat because for some reason these guys were dressed in like very floral shirts, but the problem was that even if you had 2 buttons undone in this heat, because bear in mind, we went during basically Christmas time in December of 2015. So again, you're talking the temperature never dropped below 36 degrees in the shade. Goodness knows exactly how the people of the Caribbean put up with something like that. But that was it was strangely enough one of the least Christmas sort of times I can remember at any rate. But at the same time, I still loved it. I still got so much of a kick out of it. Speaking of kicks, Jamaican food, which includes many other things like jerk chicken. I remember actually whenever I had jerk chicken for the very first time on board the ship, it was good. It wasn't even as dry as like jerk chicken is sort of famous for, but I have to remember if I've ever had jerk chicken ever since. I remember the sauce. It was kind of like a very sourish sort of sauce, but it seemed actually to work with the chicken really well. I'm pretty sure even in the KFCs they have in Jamaica, it comes with jerk sauce. Which kind of also is very surprising because it's really not the sort of thing that ever caught on here in the UK. You would never see the KFCs selling reggae sauce or actual reggae sauce or actual, jerk sauce here in the UK. I wonder actually what would happen if you ever went to Jamaica and you showed them reggae sauce. Do you think they would kidnap you for something like that? Well, I hope not, but at any rate, Jamaican cuisine is sort of, again, it's one of those things where it didn't really go anywhere beyond jerk chicken, but I've heard so many great things about it, like the jerk patties, and I do heard like things like oxtail soup, which again isn't necessarily started off life in the Caribbean, but a goat curry, however, a goat curry sounds delicious if you ask me. So that would be among other things, but the thing I kind of almost wanted to, and again, that's not without talking about the rest of Jamaica, which of course includes the Bob Marley Museum. And again, probably there will come a time, ladies and gentlemen, where I do sort of want to actually talk about Bob Marley's music quite a bit. But that's also probably going to have to account for on one of my secondary channels, because it would be more interesting to sort of like, well, then again, since Jamaica's language is technically English officially, it would be pretty interesting to sort of like talk more about Bob Marley's legacy, among other things that Jamaica is extraordinarily renowned for. Now, just for the sake of this video, I sort of want to go into a bit more detail about what happened during the ending of this holiday in the Caribbean, because this should shed some light on some very interesting things about Jamaica. The first is that you're going to be very, very surprised as to just how small the island of Jamaica really is, because it has just under 3 million people in its population. That's lower than the Republic of Ireland, for example. And I think the Republic of Ireland is only just bigger than Jamaica. And this is even more apparent when you consider this. When we got off at Montego Bay, everyone was boarding a coach to go to Kingston International Airport, and we went through Negril, we went through Treasure Beach, we went all along basically the coastline until we got to Jamaica's capital city, Kingston, right here. So what I want you to emphasize is that we basically went to the other side of the country in less than 40 minutes. That, I'm not kidding, ladies and gentlemen, it takes less than 40 minutes, even through the longest route, to get to Kingston. That's a testament, A, not only that pretty much all the roads there absolutely led to one destination, or B, Kingston is just so big that maybe it takes up so much more room of the island than probably we're renowned or even giving Jamaica any credit for. But among other things as well that I noticed when I was in Jamaica is that, again, when we were passing through Negril and Treasure Beach, they weren't necessarily the busiest cities or towns in the world, but the people we did see were quite unlike any sort of person I've met abroad. Every single person was smiling or showing the most incredibly clean teeth I've ever seen in my life. Everybody was just sort of in a jolly about everything. And I think, honestly, truth be told, Jamaica might possibly be the happiest nation, certainly I've ever been to anyway. And then again, I've heard some things about like Finland and Norway being quote unquote the happiest nations on earth. But again, just to really emphasize this, there was not one sour face. Nobody looked disappointed or mean whenever, a coach full of tourists was passing or anything like that. And then we got to Kingston itself, and, well, the airport was really, really interesting because when we got there, everybody was under the impression that the entire airport had been deserted because there was at best 6 members of staff, 2 who were working, the check-in, and about 4 security guards, all carrying machine guns. And basically, we went through the luggage handling, we went through airport traffic control, and then we get to the departure lounge, and you would have thought you had stepped almost into a different country again, because the departure lounge, the ceiling for the departure lounge was nearly a mile into the air, and the runway, the strip, it looked as though it was 10 miles wide. And again, what I want to emphasize is that Jamaica is not a big country, but somehow there seemed to be all of this space completely cleared out for the sake of a runway. It was almost as though, again, it was like stepping out into a completely different country again, because the sun was setting round about this time, and you got a sky completely comprised of purples, of pinks, of blood oranges, of crimson reds, all sort of blended together. And I remember for the longest time where every person in the departure lounge just stood at the window just looking at this. It was one of the most staggering and beautiful sights and again, the Caribbean has held so many beautiful, wonderful sights in my time, but that possibly might have topped all of them. It was breathtaking. So I must say again, even though Jamaica is such, and it was almost like being something at the equivalent of Gatwick or Heathrow, because again, once you get to the departure lounge, it looked like it was professional. It looked as though, again, you were like almost in Gatwick, Heathrow, JFK, or LAX. It did not look like you imagine Jamaica would look, even as you were heading on your way out. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I end up, again, you have to also remember, spanning 10,990 square kilometers. So that's like, it is the third largest island. But again, even that, compared to my experience, it was still relatively small by all things considered. But again, that is neither a thing that's either for or against. It's just something I thought it was worth sharing. And then especially when you realize it when you fly all the way back to Manchester, and then you have to get from Manchester back to Newcastle. One of those things. So, please rise, ladies and gentlemen, indeed, for the national anthem of Jamaica.
Eternal Father, bless our land. Guide us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defenders, grant true wisdom from above. Justice fruits be ours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. Teach us true respect for all. Stir response to duty's call. Strengthen us the weak to cherish. Give us visions lest we perish. Knowledge sent us, Heavenly Father. Grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love.
And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was Jamaica's national anthem. And once again, definitely one of the good, really cool things that I do like about this is the fact that it is as simple as it gets. It is prayer. It's praying to God to keep their land safe. And literally the fact that the national anthem is literally a prayer to God. That was, again, you can't really say there's any fault in that. It was just as they wanted it, for God to keep them safe and to keep them proud and prosperous for their land. It's just, again, one of those things where it's very, very simple, but it doesn't need to be any complicated, because you could just tell the writing is absolutely on the wall from the word go. And that is, again, a very encouraging thought. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, there'll be plenty more to discuss, certainly when we come to do a more in-depth look at Jamaica's history through one of my secondary channels. And I hope all of you guys out there have enjoyed listening to Jamaica's national anthem as well. And I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.